This workbench is on the home straight and I'm almost finished. But today I'm going to be using that 5x2 to make a leg vise to get this thing finished up. Let's get into it.
So I totally did that first time. Before I get started on the chop, the first thing I'm going to do is have a quick look in this book that I've been using as a rough reference all the way throughout this build. As you can see, it's got reference measurements for everything. They're in inches though, but we can deal with that. And it's got really detailed plans all the way through for both a Nicholson style and a Rubo workbench. I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to check it out. Really worth having a look at. As with everything on this workbench, I'm using a 5x2, so I'm just going to cut that down to length, then I'm going to glue that together to make the blank to make the chop out of. I'm going to say chop quite a lot, but it's the proper word and I'm enjoying it, so you're going to have to live with that. Now with this being construction timber, we've got rounded edges which we want to get rid of, so we're going to run this through the planer just to take off those rounded corners and get two flattish sides. I know that's really a job for a jointer, but this is what I've got, so this is what I'm working with. I've had this for a couple of months and I do love it. If you want to see my review on it, I'll leave a link at the end of this to my full review. So the legs on this workbench are angled out to 20 degrees and I want the chop to follow that. So off camera, I just put a 20-degree angle on the end of both of these boards before I glue them up. One of the benefits of being near the end of a workbench build is you have a workbench to work off. I made this tail vise last week and it's already coming in handy. So in order to do this glue up, all I'm going to do is start by lining up the two mitered ends, and then I'm just going to randomly mark out some points for a biscuit joint, which I'm then going to cut with a router. And here's me losing count on my way to 5 and realising I've only cut 4. As per usual, as soon as the glue comes out, things start to get tense. It's a really simple glue up, this one, but I don't know what it is about glue ups. If it can go wrong, it will go wrong. Now I'm just going to get that thing clamped up and leave it to sit overnight. I'm going to get rid of any glue squeeze out with the one thing I'm not sure of in this shop: wood shavings. So it's the next day, that thing's set up, and we now need to start shaping this so it looks like a leg vise chop. It's important whenever you're filming a book, you need to point at it and do loads of hand gestures without thinking about what you're actually going to say in the voiceover, but there you go, it's good stuff. Oh, look at that. So we're going for a rough paddle shape and we're going to take some measurements from the book of about 12 inches for the widest part of the paddle at the top, so I'm just going to mark that out and add on a 20-degree angle, which is going to be representative of the 20-degree splay they have on the leg. And then for the narrow part of the leg, we're going for 5 inches, which is the same width of the leg. So that centre line down the middle of the wood, because I put it through the thicknesser, it's exactly down the middle. So I'm just going to use that, measure off that to then get the thickness and get that all marked up. I'm convinced that these speed squares are like USB sticks. Whichever way you try will be wrong the first time. I mean, I hope that's not just a me thing. So I want to add off some rounded corners just to make this thing look nice and go from the narrow to the wider paddle. So I'm just going to use a piece of tape, which gives the right sort of radius. Over on the other side, obviously it's a more acute angle. Couldn't really get it to work for me, so I found the nearest thing that I could, which is a paint tester pot, and that thing looked perfect, so we're going to go for that on that side. Now it's all marked up, just time to rough it out on the bandsaw. A little bit awkward here just because the size of the throat of the bandsaw made things a little bit tight, but we got it done. To make my life easier, I just added some relief cuts in just to make the tight turns a little bit easier. I said in my last video that was the last time I was going to have to flip this bench over, but I lied. I really don't enjoy flipping this thing over, it's just so awkward. It's really a two-person job, because you get to this point and you're kind of stuck, you just got to let it go. And you should probably check the coast is clear before you do that. That could have ended worse. So up to this point I've deliberately left the chop long because I haven't followed the plans exactly, so I can't just use his measurements, and I'm not doing that kind of maths. So we're just going to get everything lined up how we want it and then just scribe off the bottom of the leg. That was close. This is all luck, none of this is skill. You've probably worked that out already. All I'm doing here is just adding in some decorative curves to the bottom of the chop because it's what he did in the book, so if it works for him, it works for me. Now we've got the shape roughed in, it's time to break out the poor man's sanding station and then just finish off these corners a little bit. And then I'm going to add a small round over just on where I've cut with the bandsaw, just to make it match the rest of the construction lumber. Now would be a good time to start thinking about drilling the hole for the screw to go through, but I'm an idiot and I already drilled it into the leg when I built the legs. So now I've got to clamp the chop up where I want it to sit, and then I'm going to have to feed the Forstner bit back through the hole that I've already made, and then hit it with a mallet just to try and make an indent onto the chop so I know where to drill. Bit of a faff, should have just done it from the other side and waited. Don't make the same mistakes I did. So I managed to get a guide mark where I wanted it. Now I'm going to use this drill guide to help me drill vertically through the piece. And as you can see, using the backing block means that there's no blowout on the back. Now it's time to start thinking about some hardware. I'm using this screw from Veritas. I'll leave a link in the description for it. Moment of truth, putting the screw through and seeing if everything lines up. And we are good. Now I mentioned I don't like flipping this bench up and down, so I'm going to make the most of the opportunity and drill some holes in the apron while I've got it on its side. These holes are really important for any Nicholson workbench. They essentially give you unlimited work holding options, and they also make it look like a proper Nicholson. So I'm measuring out some vertical sets of holes, 24 inches apart, and then I'm going to do some diagonals in between those that give you just loads and loads of flexibility with whatever you're going to have. You can obviously add more holes as you need them, but this should be a really good starting point. And once again, this drill guide really helps in this situation. It's not like I can take this thing over to the drill press at this stage, so getting my money's worth out of this. Once again, I'll leave a link in the description below for this as well. Okay, one last time, then this thing is staying on its feet forever. Tried lifting it with my left hand, it's not happening. Gotta go to the strong side. Thank God that's over. Now I get to see what this thing looks like for the first time. I'm excited for this. It actually looks like it does in the book. Check me out. Now, although it looks finished, it's not quite, so I've got a few more things I need to do. So what I'm going to do is clamp this in place so everything's where it should be, and then I can add some fittings on the inside of the table. That means getting under it. Great. These big aprons do make that pretty tricky, especially when you're 6'3". So on the inside it's pretty straightforward, just got to drill this cast iron piece in place, start with some pilot holes, then disaster.
I've left the screws on the top of the table. That's the sort of thing that happens when you're near the finish line.
Anyway, let's go put these screws in now.
This takes a square drive drill bit. It's on top of the table. I'm not getting any younger.
After double checking we have everything we need, we can now put the screws in. I can then quickly add this pre-made handle before tackling the last part of this build. So at the minute it's only the screw that's holding the chop in place, and now we need to add a bottom rail onto the bottom of the chop, which is then going to give us that lever action and give us the strength in the vise. So I'm just going to hog out the material with the Forstner bit and then use a chisel to line everything up so it matches the hole that I've already mortised on the legs when I made the leg assembly. And of course we're using a 5x2 offcut to make that bottom rail. I'm going to use my new table saw. I did a review on this last week and YouTube absolutely shafted me by giving it no impressions. I actually thought it was a good video, well optimized, but it just did not go anywhere. So if you want to check that out, I'll leave a link at the end of this, and then you take a look and let me know if you think YouTube was right to hide it. Okay, rant over. So as you can see, we're then going to run this piece through the thicknesser just to get it to the right thickness so it fits through the slot in the leg nicely. So now that's sliding through nicely, we can then just check that it fits in the chop. And as you can see, it's just slightly oversized for the chop, which is perfect. So now we can trim things up and get a nice tight fit. Got to say, I'm not really a fan of cutting mortises, especially in softwood like this, but I'm getting better at it. This is pretty tight. And as I can see, I can pick this up. This has got the chop, it's got the hardware on it, and it's holding nicely. Good fit. And before gluing everything up, I'm just going to do a quick dry fit just to see how things work and see how this travels in the vise. And it's just a little sticky, so what I'm going to do is put this thing into my tail vise and then just hit each side with a couple of passes of hand plane, just to make things a nice smooth fit. If that glue looks suspiciously smeared, yes, I did put it in and then realised I'd not recorded. So I quickly pulled it out and redid it. I had a similar shot when I was making the leg assembly, and it was the most rewatched part of the video, so you guys really liked that bit. Now climbing under that bench every 5 minutes has obviously made me lose my head, because I forgot to drill the holes in this bottom rail. These are really important because this is where essentially you put a bolt or something through, and that's what gives you the leverage in the vise. Now the bottom rail is in place, the hardware's on, let's see if it all fits together. This is a long screw. Good news is it looks like everything's lining up. We're just now going to put a little bolt through the bottom and then test this thing out. And the good news is this thing is absolutely rock solid. I've hardly tightened that screw, but you get a lot of clamping pressure, and that's all down to the leverage that you get from this. So now that that vise is on, there's only one thing left to do. Clean up and take some finishing shots. I've never made anything this big before, just take it one step at a time, and I'm really happy with the result. This whole bench is made from cheap 5x2 construction timber and affordable hardware. I haven't actually worked out how much this thing has cost me, but I will work that out and I'll do a full build video where I'll reveal the full cost of this build, so keep an eye on the channel for that. This has been a project I've had in my mind for a while, and I'm really glad I've got it done. If you're thinking of doing the same, I'd definitely give it a go.
Okay, so here it is, all finished. Oh, that was a lot of work, but I'm really happy with this. I'm going to make a video where I put all the parts together, condense it down just a bit more of a top line, so that'll be coming out soon. And in that video I'll also be adding some finish to this. Now let me know what you think I should do with it, because I'm genuinely not sure. I'm thinking possibly some Danish oil and then possibly some paste wax over the top. I've heard that's supposed to be quite good, so we'll see what we think, but let me know in the comments because I'm not going to be doing that for a week or two. So it'd be good to see what you guys think. Don't forget to check out my table saw video, which YouTube didn't put in front of anyone, so I'd love to get that one going again, so we'll see. Got a few other projects coming up in the shop. I need to make a base for that table saw, make some cabinetry for that, so we'll get cracking with that in the very near future. Thanks for watching, see you again soon. Cheers.